All the variations of Leonard Church.
Season 1, Church. Ghost Church, also Alpha Church.
I really stopped paying attention after Caboose's mental version of Leonard from season 2.
Tiny holographic Epsilon Church.
All the representations of Leonard Church are impossible to name because he went in an infinite loop of time.
There's Yellow Church. There's all the church clones. We'll count them as just one. There's Mongoose Church, Marathon Church, Dr. Leonard Church.
You can make an argument that all the AI fragments are part of Leonard Church. Very good argument. Epsilon, when he descends down into the memory unit, he then goes through the recursive process, and we don't know how deep that goes. When he descends down and comes back up, he is in the alpha, where he has essentially ascended to being the alpha. Well, the characters evolved kind of on their own, and by on their own I mean the actor and the character kind of evolved together, whoever was playing it. In fact, Joel and I have a long-standing debate as to who was it that made Caboose so stupid.
Early on, he wasn't as dumb, and I thought I was just trying to play with the dialogue as much as possible, just to try and make it as funny as possible, and I think that sort of started a de-evolution process.
I say it was him, because he started reading the lines in that fashion, and then he said I started sticking in words like kittens and, you know, love and rainbows and stuff like that. So I think we kind of fed off one another.
We wanted to flesh these characters out and show that they had more depth. With Sarge, I think to the rally speech, that's one of those moments that's, you kind of tread the line between being goofy, over-the-top, crazy, violence-loving Sarge and being really genuine, you know? And it was an interesting time when we recorded it because I think we were all needing a rally speech because we were all tired and had been working around the clock, and I know I felt invigorated after reading that and delivering the lines, and I felt like, yeah, this is something real.
Gosh, I think the character who surprised me the most in performance is probably Donut, because it was written, you know, to have really just kind of like one note jokes from season 1. I wasn't exactly as mature a writer as I am today, but like working with Dan and just wanting the character to do more, he turned into a lot more fun, just make everyone kind of cringe when he talks, you know what I mean? But just like, he's just a genuinely likable guy. It's just like, he just has no filter, essentially. So he always surprised me a lot. And then I think on paper, the evolution of Tucker, where Tucker has went from being this kind of almost the blue team's Griff, where he was lazy, he was kind of debaucherous, and he evolved over time to feeling a sense of responsibility and actually being a good soldier. Like if you look back over, you know, the last few seasons Tucker was in, he's actually capable, which is, you know, that's a huge evolution for any of the Blood Gulch characters. The names that we started applying to the individual seasons were very important, and probably none was more important than season 6, Reconstruction. There's 3 main pillars there. Reconstruction, it was the era after the Red versus Blue Wars, essentially. For our audience to watch, it's like what happens after the Blood Gulch Chronicles, and that calls back to the Reconstruction period in American history of the Civil War. Then also there was, early on in the series, it was the reconstruction of the red and blue teams. Like they had been dispersed. And so the early elements of that series were reconstructing the reds and blues to find out what happened to them and what was going on and where they were going. And then also the reconstruction, as the story goes on, the reconstruction of the alpha. The lofty goal of the meta is to collect all the fragments, or as many fragments as he can, of the AI and reconstruct the alpha. And when I say he, I'm, you know, refer to Maine there, but I mean, it's really, Sigma's the one that's driving all that. We just don't know that Sigma's the one driving it until he shows up in season 10.
Something is hunting our top agents, and I need all the help I can get to stop it. Stop it? If it's killing freelancers, I want to start a fan club for it. Build it a website.
Freelancer was essentially a backstory that we wrote so that the universe had some kind of form to it. And the goofy jokes we were telling during the Blood Gulch Chronicles were at least within some kind of context that actually existed. It was really kind of different to have the audience be on that same page with us, where they know that these freelancers are all fighting and killing each other at some point in the future. And of course, it's great to focus on something like the meta, where the meta became one of these ultimate villains from the group, and we want to see how did that come about, because he just was such a popular character. But then it's also interesting too, like, what don't you tell? Like, what happens with North and South? Like, ultimately, you know? She goes from being close to her brother to being jealous of her brother to then eventually being responsible for the death of her brother.
I think the thing that was the most satisfying about seeing the characters and understanding their stories is that Wyoming has a bitchin' mustache.
Because the main show is serial, and one episode leads into the next, it did become, the backstory became this ever-growing thing that we had to service.
But yeah, it's very tough because you don't want to contradict yourself, and you want to maintain the integrity of the overall story and the plot, and not create holes for yourself that you have to patch up in some kind of convoluted way, which we have never done.
The plot of Red versus Blue, in less than 2 sentences, is...
I hate you. I hate you for asking me this question. 2 sentences?
That's more than, I'm already over 2 sentences. It can't be done.
A guy is trying to get over his ex-girlfriend, but he can't do it without the help of his buddies.
Opinions are like assholes. And we have a lot of opinionated people on this show.
There's some guys that are idiots, and they have spacesuits, and they're stuck in the canyon until they're not, and then they do things. 10 years.